I've watched some of these scenes that have been taped and gotten through, talented people, by the way, but gotten through and gotten to the public, where you see the hatred of our party, of our people, of our voice. And you say, that's the collusion. It's a collusion between the Democrats and the media and social media and these platforms. It's a disgraceful thing.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest set of Q posts, and they're going to give us an incredible insight into what's happened in New York recently, as we have more information from Q that makes a whole lot more sense about how the blackout could have been related to Jeffrey Epstein. And we have incredible new revelations about Epstein Island and where that will be heading. So you guys are going to want to stick around and check this out. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I always begin by saying thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and don't forget to hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. Today, we're picking up right where we left off. We left off at Q Post 3426. We're picking up at Q Post 3427, and there's a lot of information that we're going to cover here on this episode from these Q Posts that has to do with everything from what we're basically learning with regard to what is happening and what has happened with New York City, the blackout, how there is a new insinuation that there had something to do with Jeffrey Epstein, but it had to do more with like black hats, something nefarious there. And we're going to talk about the really big story about how all of this ties back to Epstein Island and what we've talked about with clandestine foreign intelligence services that are trying to basically co-opt networks of blackmail and extortion within our country in order to co-opt politicians and celebrities and so on. There's a lot to unravel here. So we're going to take it one post at a time. But before we do that, I always encourage everyone to come back here, watch these last few videos. They'll get you caught up to where we are. There's a lot of information here, and I really encourage you to share them on your social media because, look, we all know what's happening with YouTube. You know, it's becoming more pronounced now. I've realized that YouTube's strategy to get this content, to keep it from going viral or to getting to more people, is almost like death by a thousand cuts. I've noticed that they've started taking away parts of how the video gets. I can't really explain it right here. There's a lot that I'm basically noticing on the back end that I'm documenting for future reference as to how YouTube has systematically continued to limit the reach of the content that is produced here on this channel, and how they do these little things. They take a little bit here and a little bit here, and like I said, it's death by a thousand cuts. That's what they're trying to do to this channel and many other channels. So if you guys want to support this channel, come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media. And don't forget, if you're scratching and go, what is QAnon, what's Great Awakening, why would they even care what I have to say or what this movement is saying, you're going to want to watch this video. It'll give you a good, basically a first course into how QAnon came to be, how to do the research, how to find the information, what it is. That's a great place to start. So share that on your social media too and get the word out that way. But we're going to pick up right where we left off, as always. Here we are. This first one is fascinating. So Q posts this video, and you can see here it's a drone, and I'm kind of showing you the most epic point, but it's this drone video that Q put up, and somebody produced this obviously and posted it over on YouTube. And it literally, you see here, it kind of goes and it cuts over. It basically goes around the whole island and over the island. So obviously, but here you can see inside of this temple. Now the temple is missing that golden dome that we're used to seeing. Obviously, there was a story that the dome had been blown away in a hurricane. There have also been stories about Jeffrey Epstein's island catching fire at some point. Like I've said before, I believe that, we knew what was happening on Epstein's Island. And as far as I'm concerned, the military intelligence, the people who have been, doing this investigatory work for a long time, longer than even we have here on the boards, made a move on this island complex, I would believe somewhere between 2017 and 18, to shut it down as they found out what it was being used for. And President Trump probably gave the order to shut it down. And now we're seeing what we're seeing with Jeffrey Epstein in the news, which Q is wanting us to continue to look at, right? But Q says here, these people are sick. Hunters become the hunted. Q. So the video itself, I think, is meant to show us that, first of all, the island has been shut down. If you watch the full video, I'll leave a link to it. There's some parts of the island that look just strange, like you don't know what they're really used for. And then, there's other parts that look like something's underground. So there's a lot to take away from that. We're going to talk about that later in Q posts, where he gives us pictures and examples of different possible entrances to underground features on that island. And we already know that Q has told us in previous posts that there were 2 levels to this island. There was the top level, the resort you see on the top with the temple and the facilities and the pools, and it's like a resort where, basically they were bringing people in, some sort of like honey pot, honey trap, whatever you want to call it, where they would be allowing politicians, celebrities, very powerful people to engage in illicit activities. Some allegations say with minors, and then that was ultimately used against them for blackmail and extortion, and then that was co-opted, or it was the original plan that was thought up by other foreign intelligence agencies who saw it as an opportunity to wield power inside of our government. And we talked about this in depth in the last video I did yesterday, this Q News one, where I was trying to figure out what the NYC blackout had to do with events that we had been told by Q were coming, watching NYC. So what I think we've figured out, though, is that it's very possible, according to Q, as we'll go forward, that the blackout in NYC had to do more with some sort of black hat attempt operation to get to Epstein, because we're going to talk about that right in the next few here. So first is the next one here with this New York Post story talking about inside the Victoria's Secret's pipeline to Jeffrey Epstein. This is a disturbing story about this woman who was a Victoria's Secret model. It just came over when she was 21 from Italy to become a model. She set up a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein where she says that Ghislaine Maxwell was the one who walked her up to Epstein's office, telling her that he was a very important man who could get her a deal with Victoria's Secret so she could become a model. And it's just a really sick story. I mean, you can read it for yourself, but basically she walks into the meeting in his office. There's a massage table. He undresses, gets on the massage table, and basically tells her to come over. And then her story is that she ran out of the office terrified, which I think any normal person would be very terrified if you had just met somebody and within like 10 minutes of talking to them, they stripped down to nothing and laid down on a table and asked you to come over. I don't know about you, but yeah, that's outside of the realm of what is normal. And then there's some pretty interesting stuff Q gives us, and I want to go through these. First, it says Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, that was the person pictured here, and she's the one talked about in this story, whose father, Robert Maxwell, is actually kind of a notable individual. Here on his Wikipedia page, which, you can take or leave Wikipedia however you want, but here on his Wikipedia page, it says that there were many allegations of his business being related to Mossad and Israeli intelligence, and that there were these different cases where it was basically alleged that he was working on behalf of MI6 and the KGB and Mossad. So there's a lot of different accusations out there about this individual's connections to, espionage and foreign intelligence services. But also, it's important to note that he's British. He's a United Kingdom citizen, and his daughter, obviously, Ghislaine, is British, I think a British national as well. So, and when you read about, the story that this model tells about how it all happened, she was led into the building, and then this was disturbing, and then this guy undresses, and then this woman, she alleges in this story that Ghislaine grabbed her in the hallway and said, "What are you doing? Like, why are you leaving? Why aren't you in there? He's a very important man, And she said she was so scared she ran away and went back to Italy and was afraid to say anything because they basically told her that he was really powerful and he knew the president and that she would be basically targeted if she spoke. So there's a lot of very, very big allegations in this story. But what's even more fascinating is what Q tells us. So he says, follow the family, UK-US 1 and 2, umbrella surveillance, leapfrog, 1 through 4 points of contact, open source. It says find 4. And then it gives you this Ghislaine Maxwell picture. Now, what I thought was fascinating is Q says in here, find 4. So these pictures are marked as numbered. And when you go to 4, which you just go over, and 2, and you go to 4 and you find 4. Well, what I thought was fascinating is when you find 4, it's the same picture they use in this New York Post article. And then I went and looked at this organization, the WIE Symposium. Now, what is the WIE? Well, I had to kind of figure this out, but look, there's this organization basically called the Women Inspiration and Enterprise. And it's obviously one of those groups of socialite activists who, are, philanthropists, whatever. They come together, all of the elite, the rich, the powerful celebrities, they come together and they, virtue signal and, create causes like, helping save the endangered, I don't even want to say anything because, you're gonna make somebody mad if you say anything. But you see they have celebrities. I think that's the woman from some show or something. And all of these women seem like they're very, that might be, is that Mika from, I don't know. Anyway, the point is that this is the foundation that we're being pointed to. Now, what's fascinating is that when I was reading the Q post, I kind of thought it was strange why Q would say find 4. Well, if you think about it, when you go to the 4th picture on this and it connects back to this New York Post article, which connects back to this Women in Enterprise or Women Inspiration and Enterprise, then you find out a little bit more about the people who run this organization. And that's where it gets interesting. So here's the founder. This person's name is Deepoku Spalding, a social entrepreneur who was born in the UK. So, and raised in London. Wow. So this person, so when Q is saying find the UK, US, or find the connection, right? Or it says follow the family, and you're getting all of these signals that are saying that there's some connection. Then you look at the New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, this organization in New York, which has been pointed out by Q as being one of the organizations that obviously is, when you put it in the metaphorical kill box in brackets and bold, then that has to be saying something, right? But if you read a little bit more about this woman, this is where it gets interesting. So the speakers that have come to these symposiums include Arianna Huffington, Queen Rania, Melinda Gates, Nancy Pelosi, Jill Biden, Katie Couric, Tyra Banks, Lauren Bush, Elizabeth Banks, Rosario Dawson, and others. So this I thought was interesting, not to mention that she formerly worked as a high-ranking studio executive in Hollywood, where she was working on different movies, including the international release of Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth and other movies that were put together. And she also worked with different organizations, including the British Academy of Film and Television. So this individual is somebody who I don't know if we're supposed to be looking at, but if you look at the connections here, then there might be something more to this and might require a little bit more digging. And this might be a better way to understanding what Q's been telling us here in all of these posts about connecting the dots between Ghislaine Maxwell, her family, the UK, US, the connections between the umbrella surveillance, I guess, where how you would find all of this, and also how it's open source, that if you look at the photos and make the connections, you can put together that there could be a larger network of women working together. And if you read through, first of all, if you read through this story, it talks about how Ghislaine Maxwell worked with, Jeffrey Epstein and was possibly one of his procurers. She's been accused of doing this. And her name is obviously connected to some foreign intelligence services through her father. So is Q telling us about President Trump cracking down on these foreign intelligence clandestine services that have infiltrated our country and are blackmailing certain politicians and individuals? I mean, think about it this way. This operation would have to be secret. We couldn't tell people publicly about it because the people who are being blackmailed obviously have high positions of power, and who knows how many it is. If it were enough people, it could throw our government, basically it could throw us into a nightmarish scenario overnight. So this is what we're doing. We're disseminating the information, doing the research, looking at the information and facts as they are, and saying, look, it makes sense that Jeffrey Epstein is a part of something much, much bigger. And that the reason why everyone's terrified and the media won't cover it, obviously the media is complicit. A lot of their top executives and top people involved have basically been co-opted by these individuals. The big tech companies, for the most part, are more interested in their own version of the reality in the world. They want to believe that it's all literally just sunshine and rainbows, and that they will make it that way by controlling what you think and what you say online. And then you have the politicians who are all basically, if they're involved with this, possibly blackmailed and being, framed behind closed doors to not do anything, to be ineffective, feckless, spineless individuals. And then there are those who, as I've said before, who just either are in positions of power, who would rather see this country destroyed than ever face one day in jail or to face the consequences of their own actions. So we're up against all types of different evil here. And that's that one. Now, the next one here says, how do you eliminate a liability? Where is Epstein being held? Reconcile. Do you believe in coincidence? Powerful people connected. Panic. Q. So this obviously is the one that I was referring to. Q saying, where is Epstein being held? I think he's being held in jail in New York City. I'm not sure exactly where. I think it's possible he might be being held somewhere here. Like there's an underground police station right here in the middle of Times Square, believe it or not, right where this blackout happened. And I believe you go in here and there's an elevator and then there's a subway station. There's a station down beneath. I'm not sure where the NYPD holds high value individuals or target or whatever. But I can tell you right now, he's probably being held in New York Police Department custody in the city. Because don't forget, the New York PD, the NYPD are the ones who said, look, if you don't go after Clinton and Weiner and Uma and everyone we found all this information on their laptop, we're going to tell the public. And so they twisted the FBI's arm, and now the FBI is having to do this, which thankfully, right? But the NYPD are the ones who are really right now working very hard, I think, to protect Epstein, simply for the fact that he is going to be a critical witness in the future if we ever have to get to some of these higher ups, right? And what if they knocked out the power in order to try to infiltrate where Jeffrey Epstein was to do something nefarious to him, right? Or to break him out, to get him out of the country. I don't know, man. Stranger things have happened. That's really the question. And how do you eliminate a liability? I mean, you would knock out the power and try to get in there and do something to harm that person who is the liability, hypothetically. So I don't know if that's true. I'm saying that is what I think Q is referring to, especially given the power is highlighted as capitalized and full is not, which talks about power, which obviously would talk about New York City and the blackout. Q says the Great Awakening. Q. So yes, we are awakening here. And now an Anon posts this picture of Ghislaine Maxwell with one of the Rothschilds here. And it's talking about it was Nat Rothschild, Nefer Suvio, Nick Rhodes, and Ghislaine Maxwell attend the National Youth Orchestra of the United States of America reception at the Royal Albert Hall, hosted by Ronald O. Perlman in London. Okay. So Q points to this post and says, coincidence, those mentioned in the past are now coming into light. Think Linda Rothschild, think Gloria Vanderbilt, think Jeffrey Epstein, and it gives us more. It says Q. So this is something that we're able to put together now that we're looking back. I mean, obviously, future is proving the past. Q has told us to look at Linda Rothschild. She's the one who's going to be brought up now. Alan Dershowitz is on Fox News with Lori Ingram saying Linda Rothschild's the one who introduced me to Jeffrey Epstein while we were hanging out with the president of Harvard, right? Gloria Vanderbilt, who just passed, who is the mother of Anderson Cooper, one of the great fake news orators of our time. And these people were involved in some really dark, evil stuff. I mean, the artwork on the wall alone, with some of the symbolism behind some of her jewelry, would lead you to believe that she was into some occult satanic stuff. And now she's just passed away with apparently penniless. And these people are very clever. They don't let their money go to anyone besides, other people who are rich, right? And now Jeffrey Epstein, who is another one who's basically has been arrested, now is indicted, is going to be under this huge investigation with a huge spotlight on him. So this is more future proofs past, and it's all coming. And, here we are, right? So next two posts here are these pictures, right? The first one here is of the island complex itself, and it gives us an idea of what this other picture here is showing us, right? It's showing us these two, 1 and 2. So here's one, what looks like an underground entrance, and here's another, what looks like an underground entrance. Now, some people have pointed out, yes, some of these may be boxes that house pumping for sewage and that kind of stuff. But then this looks way more like the entrance to a more larger complex, right? Whatever you think of it, Anon points to this, gives us this Google Maps, pinpoint location, exact coordinates of what we are looking at here. And when you look at that in context, and then you read what the person says, they say, this is the area I'm really interested in. We have not one, but 2 tunnel bunker entrances, and one of them is leading under the flagpole house. So Cube points to this post and says, this is not another 4-year election. Drain the swamp does not simply refer to removal of those corrupt in DC. God wins, Q. Look, this to me is just more confirmation that what we are doing here is truly standing up against evil. The things that have happened on that island, and it was shut down a long time ago, I'm sure, by the military and those who were tasked with that. But what we're up against is true and pure satanic evil. Okay? And I can't stress that anymore. Don't let the devil pull off his greatest deception to make you believe he doesn't exist. And then finally here, it's here's Q saying, fake news attacks only validate the message. Old guard threatened. Think size and scope of continual MSM attacks. Godfather 3, Q. So why does Q always reference Godfather 3? Just look at the plot of Godfather 3. I mean, if you read through this, I don't want to give any spoilers, I guess, if somebody wants to watch it, but the whole movie is about how Michael Corleone, at the end of his crime career as a boss of a mafia family, decides that, he feels guilty and he gives all his money to the church, and then he's in bed with the church, and then there's all of this betrayal and people are killing each other for power. It's exactly what we're looking at here. But replace that with these powerful families who also want to wield influence with in places like the Vatican and others in the United States. So it's this behind the scenes crime battle that's happening with these different, financiers, intelligence services, money guys. I mean, bad actors, good actors. There is a whole story here about who is behind all of this. And it all ties back to this broader conspiracy of individuals who are not only involved with covering up for one another, but also involved in helping to further a criminal conspiracy to do things such as globally traffic in minors and human trafficking of minor children. And there's a bigger market out there for that than I think people are willing to admit. And I really think that it's our duty to, as Christians, to point it out and say, you must cover this. You need to cover this. You need to expose this, and we need to put an end to it. Because if you think about it, what people are willing to pay for drugs, that's nothing compared to what rich people will pay for things that are really truly illicit, and then they get addicted to that like it's a drug. And then there are other ways that they use that evil to get high like a drug, and then they become addicted to it. And I don't want to get into the details because it has to do with, some of it has to do with chemistry, and some of it has to do with biology, and some of it has to do with the way that people do these evil satanic things and how they get high from that. But without going into detail, I'll say this: these people are sick, they're powerful, and they have a lot of money. And we've basically globally shut down this ring of criminality and evil, satanic, demonic, just activities. So this is really where we're at, and that's where I think we're going to leave it for this episode. And the mainstream media, I think it's fairly obvious that they have, not only do they have a disbelief, but if you look at the exchange that happened in the Rose Garden the other day, where one of I think it was a CNN reporter or something, yelled at all of the social media people that were there, all you people made some reference about how they all want to have demonic things happen or something. And it was just so telling. of how these people think. In my opinion, a lot of these people are just godless individuals who laugh at the idea of there being this real, true, evil, demonic influence that exists all around us, and that it's permeated some of the highest levels of power in the world, and that now we're fighting against that and we're standing up against that. It's just, and then if not, if they don't just think it's some crazy conspiracy theory, they do minimize it and they just treat it like it's nothing, and or some of the individuals may themselves in fact be involved in some of this sick satanic stuff. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I just thought that was a really interesting way to look at what's happening here. But a few more ways you can help out the channel before we go. First of all, you can come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. Also, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. And actually, don't forget, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. And you tell me if I got it right, if I got it wrong. If you have new theories or insights, put them down there. There's a great conversation going on down there all the time. So I'd encourage everyone to go check that out. Also, if you want to come down to Trump National at Doral in Miami this October 10th through 12th and hang out with me and a bunch of other incredible people, there's going to be this conference, the American Priority Conference. Some of the people you can meet: Sarah Sanders, Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Robert Davi, just to name a few, and a bunch of other cool people. Some you may agree with, some you may not agree with, but it's good to get in front of these people and to have a chance to say, hey, this is what I think about this. What do you think about this? It's a great opportunity. Tickets are available. I'll leave a link in the description. You guys use that link in the description to get your tickets, and I'll see you there October this year, 2019, October 10th through 12th in Miami at the Trump National at Doral. I'll see you guys there. So check that out in the description. That's a cool way to help out. Also, come find me over here on Twitter at JustInformYou. That's a cool way we can connect outside the channel and have a conversation. Give me a follow over here. Also, don't forget to come check me out at justinformednews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to the Q stuff, links to different breaking news or news sites here and breaking news, plus the latest from the channel, so you can get all of that information there. I encourage you guys to go check that out as well. A couple other ways you can help out are both financial: Patreon, the crowdfunding website, patreon.com. Link will be in the description. You come here, click it, become a patron. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. Your donations are what keep this channel alive, and you are what keep content coming 24/7, 365. So thank you so much. And also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. I'm so grateful and thankful to all of you guys who keep this channel alive. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you. I know that I never have to worry about anything with what's going on with YouTube and everything, because I know I have your support, and that means the world to me. So with that being said, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. So for tonight, this segment, I want to go out of Psalm 119, one of my favorite Psalms. There's so much wisdom and so much we can really gain from it. But this is Psalm 119, verse 153 through 160, and I want to share this with you because to me this is like a prayer that we can all say to God together about how we need God's help through all of this, against this incredible evil that we are facing. It says, "Consider my affliction and rescue me, for I have not forgotten your instruction. Defend my cause and redeem me. Give me life as you promised. Salvation is far from the wicked, because they do not seek your statutes. Your compassions are many, Lord. Give me life according to your judgments. My persecutors and foes are many. I have not turned from your decrees. I have seen the disloyal and feel disgust, because they do not keep your word. Consider how I love your precepts. Lord, give me life according to your faithful love. The entirety of your word is truth, and all your righteous judgments endure forever." I mean, that to me is so powerful. And that's a prayer I think we can all share and say together. Lord, rescue us. And remember that we have not forgotten the instruction from God, like those that have in this age, who have committed such acts of evil and have fallen victim to such the greatest deception of all, which is the deception of Satan. And just reading through that, it reminds me to always remember that the Lord is compassionate, and that we need to live our lives according to God, and that even though we have persecutors and foes that just are countless, we have to remember that we have kept our word to God by keeping his word. So just remember, God's righteous judgment will endure forever, and you are saved, and your salvation's already been bought and paid for with the sacrifice God made with his son on the cross, and the Holy Spirit that comes into us every day and gives us strength. Remember that you have that eternal salvation. You can give that gift to others just by sharing the word of God with them. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. That's pretty much it for me. A few more things come here. Click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit it, punch it, smash it, bop it, twist it, tap it, like it. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.